Okay, I'm working on putting this third row seat in my 2006 Expedition, and what would seem like it would be pretty straightforward with like 12 bolts or so actually turned out to not be so straightforward. This one didn't have the third row. I guess it didn't come that way, and I thought that it would have all of the holes already pre-tapped and everything, but they had the holes there, but they were just drilled and no threads, so I had to go through each one of these and tap them by hand. And you just have to really take your time with this because you don't want to break your tap. And there's 3 of these bigger ones here, and I was using an M12 by 1.75 on those, and then the smaller ones we were using an M10 by 1.5 on those. This is the M10. So yeah, and I was just using, this is all I have. I'd recommend having a bigger handle to use, but the main thing is you just have to work these in just little at a time. You go forward, you back it up, and just really take your time if you're not familiar with using a tap, because you don't want to break it off in there, and you'll need some oil and a little brush. You got to keep a lot of oil on there. Oil is your best friend when doing this tapping. Now the most difficult ones to get to were these over here at the edge. I couldn't hardly get my tap handle, and what I wound up doing, which I don't know if I'd recommend, is I used my drill and I just put it on forward and I'd switch it to reverse. It seemed to be the only way that I could get to those, and those are the seat belts. So 3 of these are for the seat belt, and the rest of them are holding just bolting the seat down. So they said you can do it with, just a little hand tap. It just, it's a little bit more difficult, but the holes are there, but you just have to go through and tap them. And like I said, I used to work at a machine shop, so I'm kind of familiar with using these taps. And so I say you just have to be careful when you're using it. You'll go forward a bit, and then you'll back it up, and then forward a bit more, and then back it up. And then you'll also need to get you an air wand or something to keep your tap and your threads cleaned out. After you tap it, clean it out real good. So I'm going to go ahead and now also this one had this rubber matting, and I just kind of marked, laid the mat down where they were by eyeballing it, and I just took and used a little razor knife and just cut these out. So you can see I've got the holes already where I need them there. So when I lay this back down, I'm going to lay it back over the top of this, and they should line up fairly well. Now if you don't have the seat belts, like I said, I got this from a salvage yard, and I got the seat belts as well, and I know they run into here. I can't pop that loose with my hand, but it could be that you need all of the workings, so because there's an attachment that goes in here as well, and I can show you what that looks like. These here bolt on the inside, so if you don't have those in there, somebody remove them, or if it come without, you'll need to put that in there as well. And then that seat belt's going to run up here, and then it's going to attach to here and then down there. And I may have to tap these up here as well. I hadn't even looked at them, but I know all these had to be tapped. So we're just going to go ahead, and I'm going to get started putting these seats in, and I'll just I'll follow up as to where the bolt locations and how I've got the seat belts run for this. Okay, and the most difficult part of putting this third row seat in is tapping the bolt that holds the seat belt mechanism over here, because like I said, there's a hole there like all of the other holes, but they're not tapped. So you have to get this HVAC. You can't move it completely without taking everything loose, but there's 2 bolts that hold it up here. And you remove those. You got one there too, and you can pull it back enough to get it out of the way. I want to show you. Okay, here's the bolts. I think they were 15 millimeter, and you can pull that back out of the way enough to get in there. And it's still not easy, but it has to be done to be able to bolt that up. And also, you have to tap that one right there, and it holds the upper part. So just to show you on this other one, kind of what you have to remove. Down here you have a seat belt. I think, let me see if that's a Torx headed one down there. You got to remove that. You got to pop this cover off of here, and you've got, I believe that's an 18. You got to remove that. You got to pop this loose. You remove this cap here, and there's an 8 millimeter beneath that. You got to take that out, and then it allows you to take that upper piece. Once you got that, there's a snap right there you got to remove, and then you're able, just, this is kind of clipped in clips, and you just yank and pull the rest of this loose once you have these upper columns. This one over here, you pop the upper piece down, these columns just pull right off. You pull them out this way, straight out, or you'll break the clips. So you just pull them straight back towards you. So anyways, at this point, I'm just gonna bolt this back up, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff replaced, the upper columns, and then I'm gonna get started on this side because I have to do the same thing over here. It doesn't have the seat belt mechanism, so I have to tap that down there, and also tap this other one. You can see no threads, and I was using the M12 by 1.75 on those. You just have to take your time. This one over here is the most difficult. It's really hard to get to with this HVAC box and stuff, but you can kind of see how I've got it set in there, how it goes. It goes into those little grooves, and it has a little slot up here, and it just goes like that, and then we put this cover back on. Alright, this seat belt just has some slots here, and it's just going to slide right in like that, and then we're just going to tighten it. Okay, now we're putting this big piece, setting it back into place. We've got to put our seat belt up through here, put our seat belt back up through here. Okay, we've got the seat belts pushed through, and we're just lining up these clips and these. Just got to snap this top piece back into here where it clips in. We tighten our 8 millimeter, replace that cap. Then we're going to install our seat belt right back on here. Okay, so we just tightened that 18 millimeter, tightened our Torx head, made sure we put that, tightened our 8 millimeter, and we just put this little clip back in here. Just putting the column back on here, it just pops right on with the snaps, and it's also got some pins to line it up. Okay, we've put our fastener down there, and we're just going to put our upper one in. This goes right into here. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten that. I'm reattaching this piece right here that just goes on last after this panel is popped back on. Okay, I went ahead and slid under my mat back under here, and I've just verified that my holes are lining up here. Okay, I'm getting ready to bolt the big seat up first, and we're just going to line up the back here and get the back ones in. The front ones, we'll just make sure that the arms are folded down, and we'll get to those next. Okay, so we have the bigger bolt, and then we have the smaller one. And we're going to feed our seat belt right on up into through here. There's a spot for it to go. And we're just going to get our Torx bit and tighten that down. I'm going to go ahead and replace this upper piece here. It just has these, and they go up into the slots. After we got those two back there, we moved up here to the front. We're going to get these, this one and this one right here before we can secure these up here. So we're going to get these here first. Okay, now we're ready to tighten these in the very front here. Okay, now we're getting our smaller seat, and we're just going to get the back ones first. Okay, and then we have the big bolt on this side and the small one on this side. Okay, and just as before, we're going to lift this up and get our bolts under here before we start on those front arms. I'm just going to get both of these on both sides and tighten these all down. And we've got our bolts on our front two arms here, and we're going to tighten these down. Okay, now it had a different piece in here before because it didn't have the third seat, so I had to pick this up from the salvage yard. This little valance that just covers this. And it's just got some places that snap down into these slots here, there and there, and then the back part is going to have a couple screws here and here. We slid our material back under each edge, and this lid just has a couple hinges, slots, and it just slides right back into here. Just like that. We're just going to put this little trim piece back into place here. Okay, so with a little work, we've converted this into a third row, and here's a look from the back. Okay, here's a view from the front side. We've got all of our seat belts connected, and that was probably the biggest job of all, is getting the seat belts in. So we've added the third row, so this will be a nice addition. And thanks for watching.